Hi, my name is Dan Edelstein, and I'm here with Dr. Cindy Sears, the director of the microbiome program at the Bloomberg Kimmel Immunotherapy Institute at Johns Hopkins, and Dr. Frank Jardiella, who's the director of the Johns Hopkins Hereditary Colon Cancer Registry and colon cancer expert here at Johns Hopkins. So we're here today to talk about a very interesting study involving colon cancer and the microbiome. And the name of the study is the gut bug study. So first we'll discuss colon cancer, and then we'll move on to the bug part of the gut bug study. So, Dr. Jardiella, colon cancer affects roughly how many individuals in the United States?
Well, Dan, colon cancer is a major American health problem, and it affects about 140,000 Americans each year are diagnosed with colon cancer, and roughly 50,000 die annually from this disorder. So it's no trivial matter to the American population.
Yeah, it's not. And typically, you can screen for colon cancer with colonoscopy. And is that performed routinely in every individual at a specific age?
So what we say to combat colon cancer is that everybody at the age of 50 should have some screening test for colorectal cancer. And most physicians in the United States would, in the average person, suggest colonoscopy as that screening procedure. There are others, but most people would suggest colonoscopy.
Okay. And typically, I guess the concept of colon cancer developing over time, that happens in an individual over a long period of time? Or
Yes, what we typically say is that from a small polyp to colon cancer, it takes about 10 years to develop.
10 years, okay. All right, and I guess that risk is increased for the polyp to change into a colon cancer around 50 years of age?
Correct.
Okay.
So the risk of colon cancer is very low until you get to about 50, then it skyrockets after that.
Okay. And this may seem like a general question, but do we know what causes colon cancer?
Well, we have some thoughts, Dan.
Okay.
The first is that about, say, 5 to 10% of the population have an inherited cause of colon cancer. And then the rest have an environmental factor or a lifestyle factor that we think is the cause of the colorectal cancer. And that's the two classic causes of colon cancer that we know about in 2016. But what sort of we're suggesting in this study is there may be another cause, and that may be the bacteria in your colon that may predispose you to develop colorectal cancer. And that bacteria may be linked to your diet or your lifestyle.
Interesting. Okay. So on that note, let's switch to Dr. Sears to understand a little bit more about this concept of gut bacteria. So can you just provide a general overview of what Frank just suggested with gut bacteria and what that exactly means?
Sure, Dan.
Yeah.
The colon actually is the part of the body that has the highest concentration of bacteria compared to any other site on the body. And there's actually been interest in how these bacteria may contribute to colon cancer for about 40 years. So it's an old idea that the bacteria may be contributing to colon cancer, but now with new techniques and new studies, we're getting closer to trying to understand some of those relationships.
So when I hear gut bacteria, I immediately think of probiotics, and that to be healthy bacteria. But maybe what you're suggesting is a different type of bacteria that would be more infectious in nature or more detrimental?
Yes, that's correct. We're learning from the sort of genomics revolution where we can sequence the bacteria that are in different sites of the body, that bacteria are very important to our health, both in the colon and elsewhere, but that these can be abnormal in disease, and increasing data is suggesting that these communities, when they change, they can actually be contributing to disease, and that's exactly what we're working on in the colon.
I see. And so you have so there is some understanding currently that there's a particular type of bacteria or intestinal flora associated with colon cancer development or polyp development?
So in animal models, there's quite a bit of data that suggests that either abnormal shifts in the microbiota or even specific bacteria may be contributing to tumor formation in the colon. Most recently, we've identified that a subset of colon cancer is associated with these very dense collections of bacteria that are invading the mucus that lies right over the cells that can become cancerous. And so these bacteria are very close to the cells and actually causes those cells to grow and divide more frequently, which is one of the key steps in the formation of colon cancer.
Okay. Yeah, so it certainly sounds like an interesting study in order to understand if there's something maybe we eat or something that's introduced to the colon can actually change the flora and then maybe induce polyp formation. So on that topic, is there a way that we might, if this correlation holds true, intervene and change the bacteria? Do you see any, do you see that in the future?
Yes, because in the work we've done so far in healthy people, only a small percentage of people, about 15%, have these biofilms, but they also look like they lead the cells to change their function, very similar to what we see in the cancer patients. So we're concerned that those dense collections of bacteria may be a way to identify patients who are at greater risk for subsequent disease. And therefore, it would give us a great opportunity to intervene early to see if we can do something to change those dense groupings of bacteria, or to change the overall function of all the bacteria that are in the colon, to turn it into something that looks like the healthy patient.
Got it. I understand. So at the very least, you could even, if you see this in a patient, bring them in more frequently, maybe to be checked to see if this is in fact increasing the risk.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. That's exactly what we hope to understand better in a larger group of patients. How often we see biofilms, how they're affecting the colon, and then over time, what their association is with changes that mean that the patient may be at greater risk for colon cancer.
Yeah, that's certainly exciting. I mean, my hope is to see this research hold true, and this would certainly be exciting for patients, I think, to be able to have a mechanism to detect disease earlier and then potentially intervene. So on that note, if I'm a patient, or if I'm a potential patient, how could I participate in the gut bug study?
Well, we have several sites. One is in Reading, Pennsylvania, and a second site here at Johns Hopkins. And we're interested in patients having colonoscopy for any reason, including being screened for colorectal cancer. And what the study really involves is taking a few samples from the colon and maybe a few samples of the stool and blood and urine, and that's about it. So in terms of risk to the patient, there's almost no risk to the patient. And we're not interfering really with what the doctor's doing.
Right. So basically, I come in, have a colonoscopy. In addition to the colonoscopy, there may be a few samples that would be taken.
Right.
In addition to my normal procedure.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
Yeah. So it certainly sounds easy enough, and a worthwhile contribution. So we will put the contact information for the study sites and the study coordinators online, so that any individual can email or call with a question and see how they can get involved. So thank you very much for your time. It's very exciting.
Thank you very much.